I mean, back then, obviously, you're breaking ground as a female artist and all that in a world that was largely dominated by guys. Did you have a lot of work cut out for you to maintain or your creative control over what you wanted this to become for yourself, or was that an issue that you had to deal with back then?
Well, my answer to that is yes and no. In my heyday, when back when record companies could make a living from selling records, and they were spending in excess of $250,000 making all your records for you on production, on, marketing and publicity. And we would easily just pay $5,000 to have someone take pictures of me, right? Mm-hmm. To have a good photographer. Videos were, like $60,000, $70,000. Back then, I would say that I worked closely with the label. They ultimately had the final say over what went on because they were your investor. They were pumping all this money into you. So right. If they weren't happy with the direction things were going in, but they also were, they also realized, that, I was the person creating the art. I've always been a songwriter. I've always, from about 1984 onward, I really tried very hard to wrestle more control of my image, because the early years for me, I had, and I don't want to talk too much about this, but I had a manager that pushed me. I signed with him when I was 18 years old, 17, right. I think. From the age of 17 till about 21, I was pushed very hard into he was really trying to market me as in a very sexualized manner as a pinup girl. And I was always right. uncomfortable with that. And the downside of that is that, again, music was my first love. I mean, my first band, I played saxophone and keyboards, and, we were a band, and I had always written my own songs, but that whole sexualized image really eclipsed the music part. And so to many people out there, and a lot of the media, they just saw me as a pretty face that was a product of someone's imagination, not an artist. And that drove me nuts.
Hence your husband John's perception of you.
Yes, exactly.
How sad is that?
Well, exactly. Yeah.
And it's sad, because, and that's what happened with that whole misogynistic thing that happened with music all along. Like, women were pigeonholed so much more than men. Men weren't. Let's face it. Men didn't have to put up with that crap.
Well, and especially in the mid 1980s, that's what it was all. It was a very sexualized, and very much an era of women being objectified on video, and on album covers, right? Mm-hmm. It was very, very common to see a bunch of women, in bikinis, all hosed down, washing a car for some artist,
that was sort of the impetus for my question, is because you want to stand forward facing because of what you're creating, not because of what you look like or how you photograph. It's the art, it's the music itself. That's what you're struggling for, correct?
Well, and I got to tell you, the song Metal Queen was sort of a pushback against that. It was my, after everything that happened to me when I was younger, and then, I wrote the song Metal Queen with the idea that, this is going to be an archetype for women. This is going to be a strong woman taking charge. It was supposed to be a feminine, strong I'm not really articulating this very well, but, a woman, a female archetype for women, someone who is in charge, someone who is a matriarch of her reality. But the video, was supposed to be like this fantasy world where a woman is in charge of everything and she triumphs over the forces of evil. But it was because of the era in which it was released. I think it was greatly misunderstood, right? And as a result, in the UK and Australia, that video was banned because there's a part where they set me on fire and I break free and I take control. But the censor board, there was all that Tipper Gore censorship stuff going on at that time, and they were like, "This is violence against women," and I'm like, "No, this is about a woman triumphing over that type of abuse, right?" And anyway, it was really misunderstood, and that's probably one of my regrets. But the reality is, I get to re-explain it now to people, and people understand it a lot better. And my true fans always got it. You know what I mean? So there you go.
Well, how many albums you see out there in the 80s, where there's a woman bikini clad with bruises all over her and a guy standing behind her with a whip, and that was acceptable. What is going on with that?
Oh, believe me, we've come a long, long way.
Yeah.
And I read an article where Ann Wilson was talking about that as well, that there was, we had as women in the 80s doing rock music, we had so many mountains to climb, so many, it was a constant battle against sexual stereotypes, because the reality, unfortunately, was, if you look good, you can't possibly be talented. You must be some kind of record company product, right? But of course, if you look good, you're fighting against the record company wanting to exploit that, because good looks sell records, right? So I felt like I was always trying to justify myself, and I should never have had to have felt that way, right?
I'm ashamed to say that I've been that way about boy bands, where I've thought it's all a product, it's all crap, it's all this, it's all that. Then you find out the actual talent that's involved there, like a Justin Timberlake. I mean, good Lord.
The guy's badass, totally.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah. And there's a guy that I totally dismissed because he was in a boy band when he first came out. You're like, how stupid am I?
Hey, thanks for joining us. Check out our other vignettes and full episodes from a wide variety of guests for more great content. Please like, share, and subscribe, and become a member at SocialNRGPresents.com to access premium content and earn valuable energy points just for watching.